Saturnastra he, Chapter 14. Alfa the Crystal Knight. Day year 12, month 3, day 3, 1:30 p.m. A year passed uneventfully. The Duke was preoccupied with his new dragon to bother his citizens, and after a year the novelty had passed, and things went back to business as usual. The prolonged winter in the north ruined the harvest, and today the Duke decided to raise the food tax on his population, and he was about to create a second man-made famine. And this afternoon the Duke's knights were about to carry out his command when the second that the gates were lowered, the men on horseback saw a crystal knight. The crystal knight stood at the other side of the dish, and the knight leading the Duke's men muttered into his breast, "You." The crystal knight folded her arms and waited with anticipation, and the leader of the tax collector was debating on whether they should engage the mysterious crystal knight. And beneath the armor the crystal knight seemed petite, almost childlike, and the armor was made of quartz-like material known as moon glass, and this crystal was made from the moon sand, and if one did not remove the impurities, the crystal armor lost its transparent qualities while maintaining a quartz-like luster. And visually speaking, it looked as if the knights were about to engage a crystal statue. The crystal armor had an unfamiliar design, and it was a cemented plate on top of a chainmail, and the plate unlike the muscles of the figure and the flat chest. And the boots were one solid plated unit, and the back resembling the armor of dragon scales, and this thorny look was repeated in the shoulders armor and in the gauntlets, and two crystal oars held in place a long cape, case being eternally trendy in our home world, and the helmet had an arbitrary round crystal held up by a stylus three-horn flame, and the helmet had a long horn-like ears born from two crystals, and the face was a crystal skull, and for the weapon the crystal knight had an elegant rapier, and the pommel was enormous, and the knuckle guard and the rear guard looked in twin double helices connected at the tip of the knuckle guard to form a stylized snake. Eventually the fear of the Duke overcame their prudence, and they came to the foolish conclusion that the armor was just for show, and the first of the Duke's knights to advance on the crystal knights, and the moment that the horse got close to the knight, it grew into a frenzy and knocked down its rider. Its instinct warned him of imminent danger. As the knight rose from the ground, he said, taking out his claymore, "Stupid horse, afraid I'll smash this glassy statue myself." The crystal knight stood still like a statue as the enemy knight came wielding his claymore, and he raised his blade and drove it down on the crystal knight, desiring to cut her in half. And to the untrained eye, it looks as if the claymore shattered like crystal when it smashed against the knight's helmet. However, if you slow down the frame, you will see that the crystal knight unsheathed her rapier and sliced the claymore into ribbons before it made contact with the armor, just as fast as it sheathed her rapier and assumed her original position for the effect. The enemy knight looked at the handle of his once great claymore, stupefied, and he took a step back, away from the crystal knight, and he said to the other, "This thing is more dangerous than it appears." "I don't know, it looks pretty dangerous to me from the beginning," and the horse had the right idea, said a different knight. And the fallen knight raised his fist to signal the archers on the tower, and the archers nodded their eyebrows and waited for the signal. And one of the archers said to his nearest comrade, "Oh, this is a bad idea." "I know," repeated the other archer. And the leader gave the sign, and the archers unleashed hell, and much to their surprise the arrows fell in such a way as to form a heart. And the archers who were on the walls and the towers were able to see that they heart from their posts, and this wouldn't have come out so perfectly even if we had done it on purpose, commented the first archer that had spoken. The crystal knight removed his mat, and the attackers were able to see the face of a maiden, and the girl had large almond-shaped blue eyes, and her nose was small and delicate, and her blonde eyebrows were thin, and her lips were small and pink, and her chin and forehead were small, and she had the typical facial features akin to the elves from this continent, and the name of this elf girl was Alfa, the Night of First, and she was among the many elven children that Alfa had raised. "So the crystal knights are all elves," commented the knight's leader. "I don't want to hurt you, but I will if I must," said Alfa, putting her hand on the hilt of her sword. The leader looked at the knights and asked, "Does she speak the truth?" And the knight said, "No, the girl lies. She really wants to hurt us and just desiring a provocation." Alfa gave a big sign, and she looked at her crystal mask sadly, and she put the mask back on, and then she said, "There's a big difference from what we want to do and what we end up doing, and you guys don't want to fight me either, but we do obey our orders." An eerie silence followed, and the mask and the helmet slowly cracked, and the only thing which remained of the helmet was the arbitrary crystal. And the knights were able to see her long blonde hair and elf ears, and her face was resolute. And she unsheathed her sword and started dragging across the floor as she ran towards her enemy. And she could have run faster, however she modulated her pace for the effect. And the blade drew sparks as he dragged across the floor, and when she was inches from the first knight, she saw her blade cutting him in half. And the other knights and archers tried in vain to slay her, and the arrows missed her, and the blades were sliced to ribbons before they made contact with her head. And as a final gamut, the good guards raised the gates, which Alfa swiftly jumped over, then landing gracefully in the center of the courtyard. And at the same time, the Duke was hearing a lot of commotion, was sitting inside the audience hall, and he waited with anticipation for Charity's revenge. And he figured that his luck had finally run out, and with any luck, he would come to bail him out. The gates to the audience hall were forced open by flying carcasses of two of the Duke's knights, and Alpha's crystal white armor glistened ruby red due to the blood of her victims. And the blonde lass had a most sinister smile on her lips, and before she gave a slow jog on her way to the Duke while dragging her bloody rapier. And suddenly a hand broke through the door and floor and caught a hold of Alpha's leg, and the last words that the Duke heard from her as the hand dragged her down below the earth was, "Ah!" No sound was heard for 15 minutes, and the Duke and the few knights crowded around the small hole which had opened beneath Alpha's feet. And while reopening the path, the Duke heard strange echoes of scraping and stone and other noises. And after removing a bit of dirt, the Duke recognized the masonry of one of the oldest hidden paths of his citadel. And the Duke motioned for a torch as he went to explore the path, and the walls below looked badly scraped. And the part which mostly disturbed the Duke was a hole in one of the walls, and it had the semblance of a tunnel. And the Duke felt a strange motion beneath his feet, and moving aside he saw two hands slightly raised the tiles below, and the Duke stood back, fearing that he would be the next, and he was relieved to see that it was Ahi. Ahi dusted his crimson attires, and a larger imitation of the one worn by Artsy, and the Duke made a motion to his men who threw down a rope, and Ahi simply jumped out. And once outside, the Duke said to Ahi, "You haven't been tunneling beneath the citadel, and if you break the foundation, this whole place will come crashing down." As usual, he grinned and said, "It's fine. And what's fine, me or the citadel, and it's the elf dead," insisted the Duke, shaking at him. And he looked up and gave the Duke a sideways look, and the Duke sighed with exasperation, and he knew that it was pointless to continue. And still he had saved his life, and for that the Duke was thankful, and says that he started beside him that he has stopped 5 burglaries, 7 assassination attempts, and 1 invasion. This may sound like some serious business, however the Duke was used to dealing with sticky situations, and he would have managed wisdom without a hint, and the attack by Charity was an alien element that the Duke did not know how to handle. Together with Ahi, the Duke went to check on the damage, and the elfin girl had left a wave of carnage, and the courtyard was littered with mangled bodies. Ahi checked the bodies one by one, and like a dog he would sniff the ground, and those that showed signs of life were painfully healed, and a healing method tended to feel rather painful, and is more organic in the sense that we stimulate the body's healing capabilities by combining with our own natural healing powers, and this stimulation will cause the pain receptors in the victim's body to skyrocket, and though all the treated knights and archers got their limbs back, none felt too inclined to repeat the experience. Let's take this 41-year-old knight for example. Alfa had so graciously relieved him of the burden of his left arm, and the slice was a perfect line cut on an arm from the collarbone to the armpit. And while he held his sides together in pain, he moved the man's arm to the side, and he then clawed against the skin and bones and started pulling back. And visually speaking, it looked as if he was digging from the raw skin new bones and muscles, and the healing process looked both gory and painful. And after the reconstruction of the main parts, it was followed by the veins and nerves, and this reconstruction was the one which the knight really started screaming bloody hell, and his eyes almost seemed to pop out of his eyes, and the veins all over his body became overly pronounced. And knowing full well this procedure felt painful, he would try to perform it as fast as he could, and depending on the injury, the procedure would last from 1 to 40 seconds, and he would have done it faster, however, a fast painless healing would be too unnatural. And he had to give time for the patient's body to respond to his alien self-defense system, and at the end of the process, the hand will come out a bit reddish like the hand of a newborn babe, and it will return to its original color after 3 days. And after some physical therapy, the new limbs will be better than the originals. The Duke watched with interest at his healing process, and after watching 3 healings, the knight's screams of agony became too unbearable. And even the Duke said, "You finish up here and call me back when you're done." After 3 hours, he finished the healing dose that could be saved, and the Duke and the knight's family members waited for the wells to end before seeing what had become of the knights, and the Duke sent Archie with a few knights to check on Ahi after an hour of silence. And Archie was the first to sleep outside, and just as quickly he went back inside and closed the door behind him. And despite his small frame, he barred the other knights from going outside, and the first one asked him, "What is wrong?" "Oh, nothing, and he's just finishing up. Yeah, it's best if I go talk to him myself." "And we don't want him to think you're too injured as well," said Archie, somewhat evasive, urging the knights to let him go out alone. And the knights said nothing, and they were not too eager to see the carnage outside, and nor were they too convinced by his so-called healings, and they imagined that the Duke had given the shah leave to torture the survivors for their failures. And Archie rested his back against the closed portal, and he looked at his jiggly shoes, too afraid to look forward. Yes, the surviving knights were fully healed, and though all had fainted from the pain and were delirious, and this was not the sight which had frightened Archie. Archie had seen a lot of weird things in his career, and he had seen Berthame rip someone's head off with his bare hands, and he had seen Undine's victim's skin change color as it foamed from the mouth. Heck, he had even seen his petite mother tortured to death by a gang of thieves when he was a child. Still, not one of those horrible sights could have prepared Archie for the sight he beheld. No, what had brought terror to his heart was the fate of those who were dead, and he was eating them. Alright, that's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye.